Today, we're looking at a red ink by Monteverde, Ruby. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that you can skip around to the parts you're most interested in, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen inks, I would invite you to subscribe. I do a new ink review daily. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Italics Chaplin's Tankard oblique italic nib to write for the day and to take my notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper in order to have some kind of standardization to look at. There's additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial that looks something like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. The medium, same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us really no color variation, and we didn't get any color variation. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 29 seconds to dry. Really not horrible for Tomoe River, to be honest. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 14 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Unknown time to dry. I forgot to write it down, so it's not going to be a part of my averaging on the dry times. The scrubby for both show us no real color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. A note about my missing that, I would expect that, it could make a slight difference of a second, maybe more, on a dry time, but that's what I have. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And it's very interesting because when you're expecting really a great prime red, and what I see is this very soft magenta, it comes up and I see a little bit of orange in there after the magenta and then a dark red. This was not even the dark red that I thought was going to be this ink, so it's very surprising. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And to be honest, I don't see very much difference between the two of them, other than how far the inks have traveled. So I don't know that I'm expecting very much resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this ink in a note-taking situation because it is really blurred and blowing out the lowercase h, which seems to be my major test letter. So I don't use it in a note-taking situation if I want to go back and highlight. Water, on the other hand, is completely removing it from the page. Look at that. I hit 2 drops on accident. Now, they did different amounts of cleaning, but in both of them, you're easily seeing the white of the paper. Pen flush does everything that water does. Nothing more. Actually, a little bit less. But I don't see a need for pen flush here. You're going to be using water to get this out of your pen. And the 1/3 bleach solution that you're not going to need, it does completely obliterate it from the paper. I test viscosity or flow with a thing called a tilt test. I'll link it somewhere down below or up in the cards. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Ruby has a viscosity of 1.98, making this a wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Ruby has an average dry time of 19 seconds, making it normal. Now, I would expect if I hadn't forgot the one dry time, I might see a second, perhaps two, change, but this is what we have to go off of. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Ruby, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page, and I wanted a nice bright blue, so I went with Colorverse Saturn V. The second writing sample is done on Apica CD, black and red, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at Apica Notebook, the CD notebook. I love this paper, it's so nice to write on. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Now the extra fine is lighter than the stub. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 9 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer spots of it being a little bit darker, like the K in Quick or the X in Fox, but not really a lot of shading. 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no real shading, and we really didn't get any in the writing. Black and red notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Now the extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 6 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, but not quite as dark as the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 8 seconds to dry. This has been the most color variation by nib that I've gotten on any paper. The scrubby for both shows no real color variation, and we didn't get any. Last up, Franklin Christoph. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 7 seconds to dry. Medium, same tone as the extra fine and the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Monteverde Ruby? Like many red inks, this one does not have shading, which is moving it up in my list. Now it's a very interesting tone that goes down, and it is incredibly consistent and boring. No matter what pen I put it into, I get the same tone, which I do appreciate in inks I don't want shading in. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? It doesn't matter what nib and pen you put this into, it's a dealer's choice. It is the same dark tone of red no matter what. That's nice that it's that predictable. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.